It's a mindset change that, you know, when you're asking people to have people who are not like themselves, and I see that happen, including in a lot of, you know, for example, consultants. So you've recruited an IIT Chennai, IIM Ahmedabad person. Now you only want to recruit IIT Chennai, IIM Ahmedabad. You don't even want to go to IIT Bombay and IIM Bangalore. So, you know, you see this happen religiously, because you say, you only want people like yourselves, and since across the organization there have only been men, they obviously want more and more men around themselves. So putting diversity targets, I think is important. How much ever an operational person may not want that, but I think HR's mandate has to be that you get me at the interview stage. If I have so many CVs coming in, I want 50% of the CVs to be women. If you are putting and sending anybody for training, I want so many percentage to be women, because typically what will happen when you ask people to volunteer for a training program, all the men will put up their hands, because, you know, they don't have to, while the women will be thinking, oh, if I have to be at home on a Saturday, my mother-in-law is coming for lunch, I have to, so I don't want to go and do this particular training program. So you have to force targets across the board, in recruitment, in training, in promotions, and I think that's one thing. Yeah.
Shikha, you have to contribute something in this?
See, I think, I don't know if it's relevant, but what I have seen as a difference is how we give feedback. And I don't know, I could be completely wrong, it's just an experience. What I saw while we give feedback, and typically before appraisals or otherwise, if you have to give feedback, with women, when we give feedback, and maybe it could apply to me also, I don't know, because nobody's given me feedback till now, we usually realize that the feedback is better accepted if it's, if we don't say that you could not do this or you could not do that. And it's more about giving a feedback just purely on what has happened, on the facts of the matter. Because many times I've seen that very good women who perform very well, after a honest feedback, they just go down for the next couple of weeks. They just completely go down, their performance goes down, just take it too much to their heart. When we give feedback to men, I've also seen a slight difference. In that case, normally, you know, there is a discussion where they say, no, I don't think so, and we say, we think so. Finally, we realize that when we give feedback now to men or women, we just put the data on the table. And we say, this is the data, what do you make of it? Because otherwise, we were struggling with both the feedbacks. At one end, you know, one group would just not agree. They said, no, you have a wrong perception about me. The women would take it just too much to the heart and overreact. I don't know, it could be just my experience, but then we started thinking that every time we have to talk about performance, we just put data on the table, we make them go through it, and we say, okay, what do you think about it? And that has helped us. It has helped us a lot, because we don't have to then have tons of coffee after every feedback session.
But is this specific to women or specific, I mean, general to everybody?
I don't know. I mean, I think I'm happy to know other people's experience, but yeah, this was what I've seen.
Maybe just, you know, I think it's one of the things that gender bilingual training really helped with, and I'm a big advocate for the gender bilingual training, because I think that one of the things you see in the dynamics between men and women is, one is it allows you to accept them and understand them and recognize them, but even some of the differences between types of people, like, you know, often, this is something you find often in women, but you'll find it in other people, is the threshold to contribute. Let's say you have this high potential woman, she's in, you know, these very important meetings, she's very attentive, but never says a word. Doesn't say a word. So what does that mean? She did not speak in this very important meeting. Well, if you dig deeper into some of those things, sometimes you find that not all women, but a large percentage of women have a very high threshold of contribution. They won't say anything unless it's, you know, almost mind-blowing, right? Earth-shattering, right? They won't restate the obvious, and this threshold of contribution actually can be so high that they aren't contributing because they think their contribution could be low. Now, this is not an only women thing, but this is something you sort of learn through, you know, this kind of training. And so what do you do in those cases? Well, you say, you know, Mr. Chaudhry, how do you think about this? What is your opinion? And you actually, as a leader and as a manager, you begin to, you know, pull this actively out of people. But this is one thing we see a lot with women, is this very high threshold contribution. You might see them taking a lot of notes. They might go out and do more than any of the other participants in the meeting, from the meeting, but you don't know it. And I think these are the things that we have to learn as leaders.
Yes. So I just want to add to, this is so true, and this sort of goes back to the point that I was making about lack of confidence. And you know, I had one of the most respected researchers in our country today. When he used to run a very large media organization, he used to, research organization, he used to tell the women working with him that I'm taking you for a client meeting, and you're all going to sit there, and each of you is going to open your mouth and say something. Otherwise, imagine that I have a ruler, and under the table I will be beating you on your knees. He actually did that, because that's so true. We as managers, we lose out a lot of good ideas and a lot of good thinking if we don't force our women to speak. And you will see they will never do that. How much ever they, however bright they are in a meeting, if there are men and women, all the men will be talking, women have to be forced, but then we as managers have to do that. So I think that's one point. And similarly, I think they take that feedback that Shikha was talking about. So because again, that lack of confidence, because immediately you believe that, I'm no good and what she's saying, and then you have to sort of manage the way you speak. And I think that's where now we have to spend a lot of time on how do we talk, how do we interact with women versus how do we interact with men. I think since there are a lot of men here, another mistake that men make in interacting with women is this whole overprotective bit. Okay, she can't do sales, and it's not because I don't think she's incompetent, but if I put her in sales, if I put her in late night shifts, then who will be there to take care of her? I don't want that. And in a sense, you may be doing that. Oh, I can't send her out for this very important client meeting because then the client will want dinner after the thing, and she can't do that. So this is something that men have already worked out in their mind that women can't do. But they don't even bother to go and check. Will you be able to do this? Will you be able to do a late night shift? And I think somewhere that unconscious bias that men are operating from in a very paternalistic manner, so in a very protective manner, but that also harms women's growth in organizations. And I think we have to be cognizant of that.
Yeah. So gradually we are looking into the psychology of women. How do they perceive their role? How do they get into specific handling responsibility, as well as how men is looking at women. Interesting points that Apurva you have brought out about this, that how men is looking at women and her role and how protective that they could become. Moving forward, I would like to know that, Shikha, how do you see what are we going to achieve in the next 5 to 10 years in terms of diversity? Because today many companies are talking about it. They have put targets and they say that we are going to have this percentage of women in our workforce. They are searching women everywhere. So what do you think about the future scenario going to be?
Okay, so I am a business person, though I'm a doctor, but with a business mindset. And a business mindset always thinks of not forcing people to change, but understanding the trend and creating services and products which actually work with the change. So what I think is, I don't know if we'll be able to actually get 50% women in the organization or in the rooms. I'm not sure about that. But definitely, like I mentioned earlier, I see a change. Like for example, today if you need a logo for your company, you go to 99logos.com and there are a lot of freelancers out there. You put a quote, you say this is what I want, and people put their own service offerings at a price. So I think this digital thing is going to really change. Like for example, what Flipkart started in India, the e-commerce. And similarly, a lot of things, the way we do business, the way people come to business is going to change a lot. Because I think some things may not really change very quickly, which is that women would like to have kids, women would like to take care of them. Some of them may be able to create, and who are great managers may be able to create a support system, but a lot of them may not be able to do that. And therefore I think I see a movement of a lot of women wanting to be freelancers, and a lot of businesses or platforms, even maybe HR platforms, who can facilitate these women to have the same experience as coming to an office is, whereas you get mentored, you have appraisal systems, you have systems. Maybe if that world could be created into the virtual world, I think we can see a difference.
Okay. Annette, question to you, that because you are dealing with different work cultures, have you found that in certain work culture with certain background, there is less challenge to get the diverse workforce?
You know, I mean, I'm listening to this expert panel up here because, you know, as good as we've done in Snyder, we have a lot more to do. I mean, when I look at my own organization, you know, we hired 45% women last year, but we have far less than 30% of the women in the talent pool, meaning these are our future leaders. So I'm not very proud of those numbers. Actually, I'm horrified by the numbers. That less than 30% of our talent pool is actually women, and it's kind of an embarrassment. But I also feel that it's important that our CEO and that our leadership is openly talking about it. And you know, if you rewind just a few years ago, I don't think anybody knew the statistics. We certainly weren't, you know, going to the United Nations and committing to change it. And I think this is a big step. The transparency. I think the he she for she movement is really, really important, and not in a protectionist way, but in an enabling way. And I don't know if you were here when Rashna showed the video of our Schneider Electric men, you know, having conversations with, you know, with women in their lives about their careers. It's a really powerful thing. I don't have the key for India. I think it's especially difficult in the context of what I see even happening in all the other countries of the world. And it kills you as a professional, because, you know, when I go into the factories and I meet these, you know, 20-year-old amazing women, and I have the plant manager tell me, she's fantastic, we're trying to promote her, but she's having the conversation with her family, and we're not sure we're going to be able to keep her. And we just try to support her every way we can to try to hold on to her, because the pressures are so big, and this is more unique to this culture than others. So, you know, I think clearly, you know, your Prime Minister Modi is aware of it. I mean, I think, you know, this is a place where, you know, we have some of the highest educated, most talented women. And, you know, when I look at all the women CEOs across the world that I admire, you know, Indra Nooyi is such an impressive lady. And she, you know, Indra Nooyi is the gift from India. I mean, she grew up here, she was raised here, and she's a great example. But, you know, India should be producing hundreds of Indra Nooyis, and it breaks my heart that there isn't, you know, that there isn't more of that. And so I want to solve this. And, you know, I have 10,000 people in India. I can be a big part of this solution, and I'm willing to try anything, and I know Anil is as well. And so, you know, I would like to see a much different future. And I believe it's possible, but I think you know, the triangle that you talked about of the, you know, of the men's role, of the women's role, and of society's role in this is what it will take. And I think truly that's, you know, and you're all members of society, we're all members of society, as women, we can do, you know, what we can to be ambassadors, and finally getting men to be the he for she advocates, I think, is really important.
Apurva, what is your prediction about what India needs to do, and when are we going to have a kind of a balanced workforce scenario?
So I think mankind lives on hope, so the future is always brighter than the past, right? So I definitely think that the future is going to be bright as far as diversity goes. I think there are several signals you see. So the percentage of women in that pipeline is only moving up, etc., etc. But I think 2-3 things that will fundamentally make the change, and I completely agree with Shikha there that it's going to be technology where it empowers women who are sitting at home to be chefs and then earn money, or to do some freelancing on logos and earn some money, or do designing or sell clothes on Amazon and earn money. So I think that's the technology is going to be a big empowerment tool for women. I think organizations are doing a great job, and they are pushing, they are doing wonderful things across the board. I see more and more organizations, old age, new age, everybody trying to ensure that women stay on in the workforce. Now the final and the last two pieces of the puzzle that have to come in place is women themselves, and I think somewhere women have to accept that it's not an either or. You know, we grow up thinking we can either be a great mother and wife, or we can be a great employee. It can be an and. You can be a great employee and you can be a great mother and wife. You just have to reconcile it in your mind, and you know, I think women have to get out of this thing that I have to be this ideal Bharatiya Nari who's, you know, perfect in everything, and say that, listen, no, I also need to get out there, and it requires tremendous amount of hard work. It's not easy, and half of the women I know are running away because they don't want to put in that hard work. And you need to stop whining, and you just need to get down and pull up your socks and do it. And finally, men. And I think men and society, you know, how society will change, it's really, and how much ever we want to run away from that, it's money that makes the world go round, right? So finally, when society starts recognizing, when men start recognizing that 2 incomes are better than 1, I think that thing is going to fundamentally change. And as increasingly middle class India wants to participate in the economic prosperity that they're seeing, their aspirations are increasing, that can only happen through a double income. And that's finally what's going to change this whole paradigm.
In terms of, Shikha, in terms of what she has just said about how support from the society, which is required to make women more productive and contributing to that. Any specific example that you have from your experience working with large number of women in your center?
Okay, so, all right, so I'll answer it in 2 ways.
Yeah.
The first is that there is a movement called Seva movement, and Ila Ben runs it. Ila Ben is 80 plus. She started it years back, and it's a movement of completely women who are self-help workers. Seva, yeah, exactly. And it completely shows that lakhs and lakhs of women are working in that Seva movement. It's a self-help group. They earn, they run the entire network, administration, decision making, HR, everything, and most of the women are not very literate. So I think what we need to see is, and again I would say it comes from a business mind, that I think we need to see the practices which are already working in our country, which are already successful in our country. Why reinvent the wheel? I think we should pick up best practices from all these places where women are already working, and already and in large numbers. So these are established best practices. In terms of, I think what women might need at a policy level, it's just a suggestion, but I think loans and small loans, if women are able to get, a lot more women would come out and start working. And banking, because a lot of women who earn, sometimes they don't bank very well, and therefore they are not able to raise further loans. So I think if economic empowerment has to happen, then first the awareness and the education has to be there. And I think if that happens, a lot of women would take the plunge, a lot of women. Because I meet a lot of women in and out, and every woman has the aspiration to stand on her own feet, not just because she wants to bring back that money home and therefore maybe have a better aspiration for the entire family, but also she wants to prove herself that, her dreams, she has aspirations. And I think that bank loan system, even if, whatever way it can be done, would really go a long way.
Yeah. Lot of initiatives have been taken by industrial banks, and the government policies are in favor of women. They are encouraging women to go into business, set up small to medium-sized kind of business. My own interaction with these business women also showed that yes, initially they have to take support from their family members, either father, husband, or brother. It's that kind of support that they need, but once that support is given, they are moving at a very, very faster rate. Yes. Okay. I would like to ask the audience, is there any supplementary? I see one hand immediately going up, second hand. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. My name is Ramesh Phatak. I am from Schneider Electric, as 50% of the people here are, but I am from R&D. Just look